Hey everybody, this is Dwight Peters from quarterwaters.com, the site for social entrepreneurs, where social entrepreneurs come on the program, they talk about the issue they're tackling, the impact they're making, and share helpful business tips along the way. If you're watching or listening to this program, it's because you want to change the world through the power of business. You came to the right spot. Now, millions of people throughout the world are using innovative ways to make the best of the resources that they have around them. We're talking about people that live in serious levels of poverty that are making the best of what's around them. We're going to talk to a social entrepreneur that has been able to document this. His name is Steve Daniels, and he is the founder of MakeShift magazine. Enjoy the program. Now, millions of people are using innovative ways to make the best out of their limited resources. We're going to talk to a social entrepreneur that has taken it upon himself and his team to document this and share it with the world. Today on the program, we have Steve Daniels, the founder of MakeShift magazine. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dwight. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on, man. We truly appreciate it, man. Steve, MakeShift magazine. Let's jump into it. Can you share with our viewers what is it exactly?
Sure. So MakeShift, it's a quarterly magazine and a website. We're about to relaunch our website focused on street-level ingenuity and invention around the world. So what we're doing is we're looking at makers, creators, inventors in informal economies around the world. So that means that most of the entrepreneurs that we are featuring are kind of unregistered, under the radar, sometimes even kind of on the fringe of legality, black market style, but mostly doing like really great legal work, just unrecognized. And we're showing how they make do with limited resources to contribute to their economies, and in many cases help create fully functioning economies in developing countries where the kind of formal types of businesses and factories don't really exist in those areas. So they're taking it upon themselves to lead their economies and move forward totally from the grassroots. And that's something we're really excited about and want to bring to the public.
Awesome, man. Steve, when did you guys get this started, or when did the idea hit you that, this would be something cool?
So the idea started in about spring of 2011, but it was a long time coming. So I got my start in the social entrepreneurship space by running a conference called A Better World by Design. It's a student-run conference up at Brown University in RISD, and it's a mix of all different disciplines looking at how design and technology can make change. And I got exposed to a lot of different aspects of social entrepreneurship and specifically technology to empower people. So from there, I took a trip to Kenya with Engineers Without Borders. I had created some farming tools and designed those tools for a local NGO in Kenya. And I came in with the attitude that hopefully these technologies would impact the livelihoods of some farmers there. But I went on a few kind of excursions into these informal, industrial, almost slum type areas, but they're really industrial, commercial areas, to try to figure out how am I going to get these tools manufactured and to advise the NGO. And that was a big turning point for me, because that's when I became exposed to the local engineering culture. What are people making on the ground in Kenya? And I was totally blown away by what people were making with very limited resources. They were already farming tools. They were kind of rudimentary and simple, but it wasn't a big stretch of the imagination to think that I could work side by side with these makers, these artisans, to create some really impactful technologies, and they would know how to work with the locally available materials, the kind of scrap metals that the scrap pickers were bringing to them. They would know how to make sustainable businesses out of it. They would know how to get it to the farmers. And that's all stuff that's kind of hand waving for us kind of Western technologists coming into that context. So that was a big reframing of the problem for me. And I ended up spending 3 months in Kenya just doing interviews with engineers and artisans, and I self-published a book called Making Do, Innovation in Kenya's Informal Economy, and that was really the start of what eventually became MakeShift and what will grow into lots of future endeavors supporting informal makers.
All right. So you spent 3 months there and you got a chance, you had the opportunity, a fortunate opportunity to actually see the lives of these people up close and see how they're able to create these necessary tools. Who stands out? You said that you made a book called Make Do's. Which entrepreneur at that time or which person stands out? Which story stands out the most to you
Sure.
that you can share with us?
Yeah, so one thing that I focused on in the book was that there is this dual nature of resource constraints or of operating in an informal economy context. And one is that resource constraints can be really stifling for someone who needs to make sure that they're bringing enough income in to feed a family, potentially a very large family. They're going to potentially engage in less risky behaviors, and they're going to say, okay, this guy's making furniture. I know that I can at least make money on furniture because there's a market for it, and I'm not going to put my time into developing super innovative products when I don't know necessarily that there's a market for it. So you saw a lot of people making kind of the same stuff, the same kind of furniture, but at the same time they were very resourceful in how they adapted designs to the local skills, fabrication, materials, etc. There were a lot of standouts in terms of some very interesting blacksmithing tools that I found. There was a guy who invented a machine where he could blow air into a pit in the ground to do a fire blacksmithing. There was one maker who had made 12 of his own welding machines. So not only does he weld very well, unlike a lot of the kind of digital natives that we have here in the U.S. who don't even know what a welding machine is. But he had actually reverse engineered the welding machine just from one that he found. He figured out how to make it, and he made 12 of them, and all of his apprentices are using his own machines. So some very interesting stuff going on.
Man, is it safe to say, and I love sharing my personal views, man, but the impact of poverty around the world is having such a stifling effect on people, but people still find a way to bring their best by these innovative ways. And imagine if the poverty level wasn't so high. Imagine if there was some way that we could cure this disease of poverty. Imagine how many other geniuses we could give birth to in this world. So this started out that, what was the next step? So I'm assuming after the 3 months you came back stateside?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wrote my book, I graduated, I went on to work for IBM, and I still work for IBM on a lot of projects related to emerging markets. But then I just kind of got this spark last year where I had to reconnect with the work I was doing with informal economies, and I figured the best way would be to take the work that I did that was limited in scope, was very academic, it was limited in geography, it was in Kenya, and transform it into something that was more global in both geography and in applicability. That how can someone who's not necessarily interested in this topic really engage with makers and people who are working on the street level. So I thought MakeShift could be a really great brand to communicate the creativity and the design and the ingenuity that was going on the street level, and have it represent those makers. So that was the next step.
But Steve, you said that you have a full-time job. You're working at IBM. How are you going to find time to pull this off?
Oh, there's always time. I sacrifice sleep. I don't know.
Also, no, man, I love that. Man, I truly respect. I call them weekend warriors.
Yeah, it's a good.
Entrepreneurs that grind it out after work, after their 9 to 5, come home, grind it out. On the weekend, they grind it out. I do the same thing, man. So, all right, let's talk about the impact you're having. So, you guys launch. How do you gauge impact, or to you, what is the impact that you're looking to make with Makeshift?
Sure. So there are definitely both short-term and long-term metrics that we're using, and they look very different. So Makeshift, in the long term, is a step towards providing a full ecosystem around makers in terms of support services, connecting them to the broader world. Most of the makers that I was engaging with in Kenya, makers that I've spoken to in Kenya, where they're working in isolation. They don't see themselves as part of a broader movement that is really contributing to their economies. They're just trying to make do. So the first step is to reframe, to rebrand this kind of movement, to connect the dots, to get makers to reimagine themselves as real change makers, and to get the general public to look at informal economies in a different way. I think the general conception is to kind of mix informal economy with the market, or to think of informal economies as very, very inefficient and try to replace them with factories. That's kind of the standard approach that development agencies would make. So Makeshift is changing the conversation around on that. And from there, we want to provide support services on the ground, create digital platforms to connect makers with funders, markets, and technical experts. And those are years down the road. So that's where we think the big impact will come. With Makeshift, we're using a very different set of metrics, which are distribution numbers, how much traffic are we getting on our website, what's the quality of our articles, and those are the things that really contribute to what kind of impact are we having in changing the conversation.
Awesome. Can you share with our viewer those numbers? Like, how many viewers are you guys getting?
Sure. So we just launched our first issue in October. We just reprinted with issue 2. It's being released later this month, along with a brand new website. We did a Kickstarter campaign last year, set a goal of 15,000, and we almost tripled it, got up to 43,000. So we're clearly building a lot of momentum, and we sold out of 2,000 copies of the first issue. So we're really happy with the kind of foundation that we've set so far. But we are now rethinking and taking a step back and focusing on growth. So in terms of print distribution, as I said, about 2,000 copies we're selling out over in retailers, but we really need to kind of outsource distribution and grow and all those things. Online, we learned a lot of lessons from the first issue. We kind of had this strategy of throwing all of our articles up in print online and having a separate blog. Yet the blog got way more traffic than the articles from the magazine, and we really learned that online is a different world, a different playing field from print, and that's why we're redesigning our website to adapt more to that landscape and kind of reach the next order of magnitude in visitors.
Question: was it a conscious decision to make the print magazine?
Yeah,
Why print it?
absolutely. Yeah, so a number of reasons. The first reason is one of the main goals of Makeshift was to establish a credible brand for the informal maker. And a lot of that credibility comes from having a physical product that you can hand people, that you can bring to decision makers, whether they're in
Come on, Skype, don't fail me now.
Hello?
Yeah, Steve, I'm here.
Okay. Um,
Let's try again.
I'm getting warning signs of cutting out.
Oh boy. Um, are you uh hmm. I'm trying to figure out, man, because I don't really want I want to get the best quality of this because what you guys are doing is awesome, man. Would you have a better internet connection anywhere else?
I'm in my apartment. It's not much I can.
Huh? I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What you said?
No, I'm in my apartment. Pretty much what I got.
All right. Do 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 do. Cool, man. I'll just edit it. I'll just chop it up.
All right, so sorry about that. I
Now,
had a feeling this might happen.
nah, no problem, dude. Trust me, Skype is my best friend and my enemy at times.
Yeah,
All right. So we were talking about the magazine. It was a conscious decision because you
yeah.
guys wanted to,
I'll start that response over for you to use editing. Yeah. So definitely a conscious decision to go in print, and one of the reasons was the goal of Makeshift was to establish a credible brand for the maker, and by having a physical print product that we can go to decision makers with, a really high quality, neat package, that lends a lot of credibility to the brand. And having a website doesn't necessarily guarantee us, at least not in the right places. I can send someone a link to the website, but unless they're already exposed to have an interest in the topic, they're not going to stick around. But I can literally shove something in your hand and say, and there's a higher likelihood that you're going to take it seriously and then you're going to read it. The other reason is that the brand itself and the makers that we represent are very physical and analog in nature, and that's definitely represented in the product and in the type of paper we use. It's very high quality recycled paper, and in the whole design of it.
awesome, man. All right. I had a question about your Kickstarter campaign. Why do you think that you guys were able to triple your amount?
Sure. So we did a lot of preparation, and in that preparation, we built up a solid network. We had, our Twitter and Facebook going before we had any sort of launch, just kind of get the word out of what Makeshift was, and starting to kind of give people a feel of what we were about, even though we didn't have a product yet. We built up a bit of a following there. We sent out press releases to journalists, both in our network and outside of our network, just before the launch, and we were able to get in some high-profile outlets like The Atlantic right at the launch of our campaign. We ended up building up enough momentum that Kickstarter put us on their homepage and in their newsletters, and it just really snowballed from there. As for the campaign itself, we had a very high quality video that we think signaled to people the type of quality and effort we were going to put into the finished product, and we gave out good prizes. People wanted the magazine.
People wanted it. Awesome, man. All right. So what you guys are doing is an awesome thing. You're highlighting individuals that don't even understand that they're actually a part of a bigger community that are doing awesome things. What are some of the challenges you have faced? What are some of the challenges that you are currently facing with Makeshift?
Yeah. So, like I said, Makeshift is it's in new territory. We're dealing with an issue that people have preconceived notions about. So, presenting it in a way that breaks those preconceived notions, that's a challenge. We're working in an industry a lot of people think is dead. We're working in print publishing. A lot of people think we're crazy. So that's always a challenge, and getting advertisers to sign up for that. And then going digital, we had some pains at the beginning with trying to translate the print version to online. A lot of lessons were learned there, and we're trying to create more of a supportive or mutually supportive ecosystem between print and the online, so that we bring people in through the website, give them an idea of what we're about, drive up traffic there, bring in advertisers, do some cool partnerships with advertisers, and then for the people who really like what we're about, they'll then buy the print magazine. And we think that's kind of the opposite of how we initially went into it.
Awesome, man. Steve, is there anything else that you would like to share with social entrepreneurs that are watching this program?
I would say to the social entrepreneurs out there that if you're thinking about doing some good in the world, just go out and get started, get your feet wet. This was a long kind of gradual process for me. Like I said, I started with the Better World by Design conference. I took a trip to Kenya. I realized a lot of what I thought about social entrepreneurship was wrong, and then I kind of got started with research and magazine, and it's still a learning process for me. So just take it step by step. I love what you're doing with Porter Waters. You're taking a similar approach to how I took and just getting your feet wet and learning about it. So that would be my advice.
Awesome, man. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the founder of MakeShift Magazine, Steve Daniels. Steve, thanks for coming on the program, man.
Thanks. Great.